Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Writer's Workshop, a nonfiction book club where we discuss writing books. And I'm so glad that you are here with us today. So, here are my lovely co hosts, and they can introduce themselves while I bring myself back from the other side.
That was awesome. That was like an awesome appearance. You just like you need music to go.
I'll do that sound effect next time, like it's Wayne's World. CJ, would you mind introducing yourself? We'll work our way around up to me.
I don't mind at all. Hi, I'm CJ Blair. I'm a writer of things. I don't know what else to say.
That is perfect. And Carrow?
Hi, my name is Carrow Brown. I'm a fantasy author. I have a book out called Queens of Swords and Silence, and I also write works under the name of Faye Black, and you can find those out on Amazon. So that's me.
And you should. You should, because they're good. I haven't read the Faye Black one, but I read the other one. I love it. All right. I meant to tell you that yesterday. So I am Lisa Daly. My channel is best-selling author, writing coach, Lisa Daly, which is way too long. But I'm a traditionally... right? But I'm a traditionally published author of 8 books, and over on my channel, I give writing advice and publishing advice. So if you want to write a book you're super proud of and get it published, you might want to stop in. We'd love to have you. Thanks for having me today.
I'm so glad that you could be here. And my name is Tamara Woods. This is my channel where I talk about books and writing. And this is one of the ways that I keep myself accountable, having this monthly club where I get to talk with my friends and with all of my friends, whether you're with me on here or in the comments. We discuss excellent books. And this time we are, can we see it? No. Someone else pick up your book because this is not working out. How to Write Dazzling Dialogue, the fastest way to improve any manuscript by James Scott Bell. All right. So that's what we're doing. Claire's here, and she said, oh, man, the production budget on this, right? Only the best, my pet. Only the best. And the first person to make a showing was Sarah, and she was cleaning house, and she was totally not bitter at all. Let's say hello to everyone else. The Naked Fireflies here. We're so glad to see you. Elizabeth, I know, right? Claire's like the author troop ghost. She just kind of comes in and goes. Hey, Jeannie. I brewed my, oh my goodness, everything is blue. I brewed mine like right before I grabbed my lady friends here. I was like, coffee. Kash, I'm so glad. We're hoping to learn some stuff from you too. Hey, Grayson, glad to see you.
I love that icon.
Right?
Grayson. Yeah, I'm here for
Howdy, Devin. Devin is not a stream if you're not here. Hello, Miss Barbara. Oh, you changed your avatar. Oh, look, see, I made my things bigger. I can see better now.
She must be editing. That looks like an editing avatar.
I feel it in my heart.
Computer, paper flying. Yes.
F this.
Hello, Mary. Shanita, I'm so glad you're here. Aw. Don't forget to hit the like button. I would appreciate it. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you certainly can. And if you want to invite other people to the chat, feel free. Of course, you don't have to. But if you wanted to, I wouldn't say no. Hi, Sid. Hello, the nerdy nanny. Well, thank you for liking. Key, greetings and hallucinations to you. I always want to say like a mixture of hallucinations and salutations, and I'm afraid I'm going to say like halitosis. So that's how my brain works. There you go.
You know, I would just do it and then pretend like it didn't happen.
I don't have the skill to play that off. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't mean that you smell. Oh no.
I would totally call it out, and then Devin would make a joke about it, and then I would snort laugh, doubling my pain.
Devin would absolutely make a joke about it. Yeah. Hi, Alley Cat. Oh, Sarah telling people to hit the like button too. Oh, you guys like me.
Sweet.
It's all this like button action.
Aww. Everybody's so nice today.
I know. What is up? Is this what happens when you're here on a weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Sarah. I try for magic. Magic and adventure. Oh, oh my goodness. And Dina's in the comments. Hello. All right. So I think that was everyone. And if anyone comes in as we're going along, I'll try to grab them as well. But let's get started. So let's start with like our initial thoughts. What did you think about like the writing, his tone, the pacing? Was it easy to read? You know, that kind of thing.
I like the structure of the book, and I like that he had a lot of examples in here to pull from, because what I've noticed with other books that talk about dialogue is that they may give like 1 or 2 examples and then they move on. But he's got lots of different examples from like plays and movies, and then he uses examples from books in here. So I thought that was really useful, and that's definitely something that I really enjoyed when it came to like what he put in here.
Well, I've fast become a James Scott Bell how to write fan. Like I see that every time we're about to do one of these, I think of these books and I'm like, wait a second, it can't just be a James Scott Bell like fan club. This is ridiculous. We have to look at other people's stuff too. So I already enjoy his writing style. And I liked all of the concrete examples of like things to practice and to try out. That was really cool. Spoiler alert, I read the book like last night. I know you are shocked. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry to shock you like this. But yes, so I haven't had an opportunity to fully try out some of these things. But there were a couple, and I think that we could talk about those, get into those later, that I definitely want to try out.
Lisa? I loved it. I actually had read. I'm sorry, I just jumped in. Let me just talk. I had read it before, and I really liked it. I really liked his work. He's super accessible. He's great examples. A lot of times, authors will just give examples from their own genres, not. He's got everything in there from like Scarlett O'Hara to whatever. Like he has the gamut, and I really like that. I really appreciate it. I love his like 10 sort of big areas in the back of the book where places where it's really easy to screw up. I think it's really important, especially for new authors, to point those big pitfalls out. I mean, some of the other stuff is more nuanced, but I think he does a really nice job with covering sort of the big swipes and the small details. I read it before, and I read a little while, and I didn't remember that I'd read it when we initially talked about this until I saw the cover, and then I'm like, I've seen that before, and I owned it, but I did buy another copy on Amazon before I realized that, and I really like it, and I think he just does a super nice job of really explaining what he's thinking about, and I also love his little pithy titles, like the different methods that he uses. I think that they're easier to remember because he gives them little funny names. Like now I can't think of any because here I'm like, oh, it's so much better that he does this, and I can't think of a single one. Champagne. All right, never mind. I'll talk about one.
Let's see.
So yes, it's a thumbs up for me.
She likes it.
Like there was one called The Fear Factor, where he was discussing like adding like some fear and some elements to your dialogue. CJ, before you go on, I'm just going to acknowledge, thank you so much, Dana. Super chats are activated on this channel, and I am really bad at letting people know. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. You're very sweet. No one has to do that. That's absolutely not mandatory. I still want to hear what you have to say regardless. And oh my goodness, you guys, don't be too nice. You're going to make me cry. No one wants to see that I'm an ugly crier. Thank you, Miss Barbara. It's so sweet.
I wish a delicate Halle Berry, like one precious tear crier.
Now I'm like,
Yeah, no, my face gets blotchy, eyes get puffed up.
Okay.
My lips look like I ate like some kind of red lipstick or something. Like,
Yeah, my nose starts running like I was eating jalapenos. I mean, it's not the best look.
we don't got no Hollywood cry here. I'm sorry.
You're just being mean.
Oh no! Look what she did.
Dina! Thank you. And I love you too. Okay. This is very wonderful, but I don't want this to be about me. Okay, CJ, how did you feel about how to write dazzling dialogue?
So my first thought, I was with Lisa. I don't think I've read the whole book before, but I think I started this book several years ago. Because the first chapter, I remember the first chapter. And I don't know if I read it like, I don't know where I read it because I don't own it. So I don't know. But I remember the first chapter very well. And I was like, I swear I've read this before. Overall, it was very helpful. My initial thought, like about halfway through, I guess that wouldn't be initial, but my thought about halfway through was this is an excellent companion to the book we read a couple of months ago, the GMC, the Goals, Motivation, Conflict.
Yeah.
This was like, there was a lot of stuff in here about dialogue that really fits well into what we learned in that book. And I was like, okay, well, now I have two books and I can go back and forth between them, which is nice because, especially in editing, dialogue is not something I'm strong with. So that was very helpful.
I'm hoping that this book will help me to play with my dialogue a bit more. I feel like I could make it a bit more nuanced. And also, if y'all haven't picked up your copy, there's a link in the description for this book. There's also links for, I'm not sure. I might have all of the books listed. I'm pretty sure I have all of the books listed that we've read this year. And I feel like GMC might be listed down there because that was like one of our top favorites. Mm-hmm. That was our top picks for 2019. Thank you so much.
Not the ugly cry.
Oh my God. You guys. Okay. So one thing I noticed with this book, because we were talking about like the different examples that he gives and how many there are, a lot of them come from film though. Even books that were like, even examples that are book to film adaptations, like a lot of it is very film based. And I was just curious, and I didn't get a chance to look it up. Does he have a film background? Because he was even talking about taking improv classes.
Yeah. Doesn't he talk about that at the beginning?
Yeah. He's a script writer. So I think actually this is probably why he's so good at dialogue. Because if you think about it, scripts are dialogue in action. You don't have all that internal monologue. You have to be much cleaner with your dialogue. You have less time to tell your story in. You have like half the time you would have in a novel, or a third of the time you'd have in like a fantasy novel. And you have to get a lot accomplished. Obviously, you have pictures versus, description. But I think that's part of the reason why his dialogue advice is so spot on, because he has that script writing background.
I think that you're right. I think, and one of the exercises that he gave was to go to IMDb or something like that and find a piece of a script that you enjoy and then try playing with it in terms of either inserting a piece of it into a scene of yours or writing it out as though it is from a novel. And so I thought that was it. I thought that was an interesting idea, but it's probably not one I'm going to explore.
I did it with Fight Club because the book and the movie definitely have like some big differences. But so I grabbed the script and I just kind of like played around with that, how I visually remembered it. So
Can I tell you how much I ship you right now for doing Fight Club, Carrow?
I love Fight Club, man.
The most Carrow Brown thing ever. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, Fight Club is definitely a good one. What is okay, so there was another thing I was thinking about, like, and you give an example of like Fight Club. I was thinking about the examples that he were given. They were all like very much classic movies, classic novels.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any contemporary, or at least more contemporary, more modern movies or books that you think has like some dazzling dialogue?
Snappy dialogue.
V for Vendetta. Vendetta has some serious good dialogue. Like you could take the visuals right out of it and just listen to the characters talk, and it's just gripping like the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, that is a really good one. I just read a book. You know, I'm all about like the rom-com. I just read sort of the it book of the summer, which is Beach Read, which if you have an Instagram account, you've seen it everywhere. And it has fantastic dialogue. I think the author's name is Emily Henry. And she has like a YA background. I think this was her first adult contemporary romance, but it was really, and usually you don't think snappy, fabulous dialogue when you think romance, but it was really fantastic. Like it was,
that's so cool.
It really kept me engaged.
I love that. I always think immediately of Pulp Fiction. I loved the dialogue in that movie. Yeah. That's like one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big fan of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, good.
I was gonna say I'm a big fan of Terry Pratchett, and I've been rereading a lot of my Discworld like collection, and there are several places, several of his books that I'm like as I'm reading this, and as I mostly listen to the audiobook, and there's that he talks about when he talks about I want to say when he talks about voices, there's some real Terry Pratchett does a really good job of differentiating between voices. Each person has their own tone. Mm-hmm. They have their own vocabulary, almost like fiction, that. Yeah, and
really great characterization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how they deliver their even in writing. And I don't think you can, you can't necessarily always hear it.
Yeah. See, sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I just saw Clement's comment about how Avengers Endgame has really good dialogue coming from Thanos, and it does have really good dialogue in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Elsie, I hope that you are parked now because you were driving.
We'd be watching you.
Be careful out there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what you just said actually about how the characters have their own different ways of speaking reminded me of one of the points in the back, sort of the pitfall area, where he talks a lot about dialects and how 100 years ago that it was very common to use dialects, and that now you're just really begging for trouble. Especially you wouldn't write them the way they wrote dialects 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yet sometimes people do sort of to give that flavor. And I'm thinking about Camille Myrick, right? Because she's a Southerner. And there's some things that are very, very Southern. And I often write, because I have a little pitter pat for Southern gentlemen, I usually write, right?
Swoon.
I mean, gross or less. I often write Southern gentlemen, but I do not like pull up the entire Southern dialect in order to do that. I often usually just choose one word that sort of is, so that they're Southern, but you don't get y'all, blah, blah, the whole, I was just saying this. My people are Southern. So y'all, blah, blah is not an insult. That's just me. So
that's a really good point to bring up, because like at my physical critique group that I go to, or would get when I can go to it again, that I would go to, occasionally we would get somebody that would come in and want to write like a British person, and they would use like a lot of like the common slang, and I was like, well, where is this person from in Britain? They're like, they're from this thing. And it's like, well, they're not going to use that word. They're going to use this word, and they're also going to replace that phrase with this phrase, and they're also not going to make eye contact because they have problems with that. And they're like,
it's kind of like in the United States, like what is that bubbly caffeinated beverage called? Is it pop? Is it soda?
Is it Coke?
Like,
is it Coke?
yeah,
Right? Because in the South, everything's a Coke. Even what kind of Coke you want, I'll have a Fanta or a Diet Pepsi. It's all Coke in big chunks of the South. Of course, we're all drinking sweet tea anyway, but it's different, right? If you're from the Midwest, isn't it? It's pop and sodas like East Coast and
like West Virginia is just weird. We say pop for no reason. Why? I don't know.
We just want to be part of the Midwest.
I know. I grew up with pop and soda, so I use them interchangeably. But I drink Coke, so I also say that all the time. So it's all a Coke to me. Soda, pop. Yeah. All right.
Blah, blah, blah is effective.
Well, yes.
I will say that
I appreciate you clarifying for us, Elsie.
Thank you. Be safe.
Oh, and then then we could take it internationally. In Australia, it's soft drink.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent. CJ, what were you going to say? Are you having? You're having a moment.
I want to hear the dialogue between you and the cat now.
I told him I'm in the middle of something and I know he's needy, but he needs to stop.
See, this is great conflict and dialogue, y'all. That was one of the things in the book. Conflict and dialogue.
He's had a rough day. And he's mad at my sister, so I'm trying not to be too mean.
Yeah.
But you do need to simmer down.
Your uncles call it tonic. Interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
When I think of tonic, I think of like something else. Oh, the other thing that I love?
Tell us.
Silence. Talks about.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times we're just like dialogue, and a lot of dialogue books do not, in fact, say sometimes better to shut the hell up. And I think that is a really valid point. It can be really powerful. There are a lot of really good reasons to do that. Obviously not for the entire book, but yeah.
So he uses a metaphor of, and I don't remember where he uses it, but he talks about how using dialogue as like you would, like a conductor uses his baton. And of course, because I'm a music person, that was like in my head, I'm like, oh, okay. And the thing I talk with I'm a piano teacher, and I talk with my students a lot about rests in music make the notes more noticeable. If you don't have rests, you're just playing all the time and it becomes noise. And you can't create rhythms, you can't create patterns, you can't create themes without rests. And so rests are essential in creating music. And I think the same is true because words have timbre and they have rhythm and they have a lot of the same things that you see in music that makes them interesting. Mm-hmm. And without those moments of silence, you lose a lot of the interesting parts.
Yeah. If my writing wife was here, when she reads stuff and there's like a lot of tense dialogue that goes on, she always likes to say, I just need you to stay with this for a few beats and share like some versatile, like how is this person feeling? What is their heart doing? What are they thinking? Like, so for those of you who are kind of like, well, what do I do with silence besides stab? Because that's a character in my book, but promo. I slid that in there. I got you.
Nice. So this kind of brings me to something. By the way, Alina is part of our panel, but she's not feeling well today. but she is watching us from her bed. So hello, Alina.
Aw.
And as Claire's here, she's got snarky, super sarcastic dialogue down pat. And he does address humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I find humor to be difficult. I don't know about how you ladies feel about humor. Like, I try to interject humor, and I'm always worried, did this hit? Did this land? Am I the only person laughing in the room?
Right, you're sitting there giggling to yourself, and then people read it, and you're like,
Right.
Why aren't you laughing? You're not laughing.
That's the best part, though. Like, if I'm cracking myself up, I don't care. I hope the rest of you laugh, but if you don't, I have made myself laugh, and that is good enough for me. Generally speaking, I find it does translate, although certainly there are some things that I think are hilarious that do not land. But it's still hard. I mean, most of my books are humor. I mean, they're romantic comedies, so they have to actually be funny.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's really easy for me to write comedy. And sometimes it's so hard. I had when I wrote Single-Minded several years ago, I had gone through something really rough when I was writing first draft. And my agent, Stephanie Evans, who is delightful and fantastically blunt, says, Lisa, this is a romantic comedy, and it is not romantic until page 70, and it is not funny. And I'm like, I know. Right. But but she was totally right. And and I knew it. I turned it in and I knew it. But she's right. And it was a much better book after I did the rewrite. It was I had the deadline bearing down. I was going through some stuff, and it's really hard to be funny. I think this is part of the reason why I've kind of slowed down with my writing now, because we have a pandemic. It's harder for me to crack jokes.
I mean, just in everyday life, it's harder to crack a joke, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be better at it on paper. So, just like.
In Pennsylvania, if you're in Pittsburgh, you have a tendency to say pop, or for shoes, tennis shoes. Actually, it's more for people who live in central northern Pennsylvania.
I still say tennis shoes. I literally thought I was the only one. Thank you. I have no connection to Pennsylvania other than my significant other, but I've been saying tennis shoes long before I met him. So
maybe that's why people in West Virginia say pop, or at least north central West Virginia, because that's like right against the border of Pennsylvania. And I also say tennis shoes. All right. Regional stuff is fun.
Like cleavage going on. Sorry about that. I just lean back and I'm like, holy smokes. PG today.
Oh my.
Speaking of PG, one thing that he brought up was cursing, the F-bomb. So and he was saying that a lot of times writers are advised to kind of cool it with the F-bombs, and he avoids using the seven curse words from George Carlin.
George Carlin.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Do you swear in your writing? Are you turned off by it if you read it or hear it in shows? And remember to tell the folks what your genre is, just so they can know.
So I write urban fantasy, and I do have one character that likes to use the F-bomb very frequently, but it's not like a universal thing. It's really just kind of just for that character. And I remember like when I initially started like giving it to betas, there was like a reaction to it because they said, you're just having him use this word for shock value. And I'm like, literally, this is part of his characterization. And because he is trying to like get attention and trying to like shock people, that's just how he does it. But outside of that, I do have like urban fantasy curse words, like, Odin's Eye or, Seven Hells and all that other stuff in there, which is usually kind of what happens with that genre. I think it also kind of depends on the age group as well. So I kind of write for an older audience, but if I was writing for somebody a little younger, I would probably omit that. Or I would find more creative ways, or I'd just be like, oh, he cursed, and then continue on with dialogue after that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I swear a lot in real life, and I swear a lot in my books. I've literally only had one person comment on it. And that was a line editor who was like, I don't know, I think she had come right from church to line editing, but she was really like you have to say God. And I didn't say God like G-O-D. It was always like, because again, it's like a Southern thing, I think. You say, to say God like the G-A-W-D. And right. And so I had a character that said that. And she really did not care for it. And eventually I thought, like, well, wait, should I do this? Should I not do this? And I still do. I probably do a little bit less than I did in my first novel, but yeah. So I swear a lot. Sorry. Also true in life. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not like constant. But if something horrible happens, if somebody like nearly runs over you with their car, you're gonna swear. I would definitely swear. So if I would swear in real life, it's in the book. There you go.
I could dig that.
Yeah.
CJ?
I also use a lot of made up stuff, but yes.
So right now I have 2 genres that I'm writing in. One is fantasy. I have a young adult fantasy that it's like a free serial. It's out there. And I don't use swearing in that. I may have used like, damn it, or like something on that end of the swearing spectrum. Mm-hmm. But I mostly use like I think one of the characters uses the phrase, "Oh, for the love of trees," over and over. And like, that's just her thing. She's all the time.
Of course. Like you do.
As you do, you know. And so like, I use that type, like Carrow, I use that type of swearing.
Umbrella.
Thank you. That's the word.
I'm here for you.
I was like, rainbow. And connection. Reading rainbow. I don't know.
This diagram. We'll figure it out.
Yes, Bees, thank you so much. You are so kind and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Eva's here as well. Thank you. Oh my, 3 Bs. you calm down. You're gonna make me cry, and everybody wants to see me cry, but I'm not giving you guys a satisfaction. Thank you so much. That is so wonderful. I wish that we could see what the stickers were through StreamYard, but since you guys are watching on YouTube's platform, you get to see. Gosh, you guys are too good to me. Absolutely too good to me. I'm going to scroll up a bit and see what people have been saying.
I want to say one thing more about cussing, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I had just actually finished a book like a little while ago, and in that book there was a lot of cussing. Like a lot, like to the point where I was just kind of like, and the thing that kind of really stuck out with me, or at least the impression I walked away from, is that the author was trying to make like the characters more edgy by having them cuss more, but when you use it to like an extreme, it doesn't actually have the same effect. In fact, it made me think that the characters were juvenile, because when I used to teach high school, basically students talk to each other by having a normal word, cuss word, and just nonstop. So, I just kind of wanted to bring that up, because the time and place, and then kind of like what you're trying to do with it at the same time.
Right. That's the truth. I don't like, when I think about it, I think, maybe you know somebody who cusses every other word, and maybe there's a reason for that. Or maybe your character has Tourette's syndrome. But for the most part, I think, in this conversation like this, maybe I'll drop a bad word, but probably not. But yeah. And I think Dana said something about like, if you burn yours, right? Okay, you're going to drop 1 or 2, right? Sarah said that. And I think it was Dana who said, like, if you burn your finger in the microwave or something, then you're going to. And I guess that you want that sort of realism.
Mm-hmm.
Context matters.
Yeah, it matters a lot.
I literally just had feedback on a short I wrote. The most cursing in that of all the things I've written, the feedback was good. The past feedback didn't enjoy the language. I write cozy mysteries now, so they don't like the swears. They do not enjoy that. That's not part of their game. But that's an important point. You have to play to your genre. in terms of like the verbiage you're using. And, you know, if I want people to enjoy it, then I'm going to curb my language. Whereas if you talk to me in real life, I have a lot of swears. F-bombs are my best friends and we hang out a lot. But, you know, I curb it for that. With Blood Roses and Honeysuckles, that is a women's fiction novel. And there is some swearing in there, but I tried to keep it more for impact.
Yeah.
It's like a knife, you know, a knife that if the more and more you use it, you kind of dull it. And I wanted to stab you. I wanted you to feel the F-bomb.
Right. Well, it's like a knife or a toilet plunger, right? Like, so not very often, but sometimes it's funny and unexpected to bring it up.
Toilet plunger. All right. Cornell says,
like I have sex in my books, and so it seems insane to have sex in your book, but then you hear it like, gosh darn it. Let me see. Yeah. Right.
Oh man, I wanted to say all the inappropriate things in the world. See this restraint? Do you feel it?
I feel it.
Thank
It's vibrating. It's vibrating through this cord.
Yeah. I know an author. His name is Jack John. He writes under John Dobbin, and he writes this mystery series. But the man is like the sweetest, nicest guy you've ever met in your life. And so, even though there's all these bad guys and gang members and mysteries and cops and lawyers, no swearing. There is no swearing in his books, and I almost find the absence of it shocking. Right?
See, like Garnell says, it depends on characters. I'm writing about mob men and they swear.
Right.
And just like he was giving examples from Goodfellas. And I'm pretty sure Goodfellas was not clean. I see that Very Bad Books has buried me in super chats. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't think that it's even. Are you showing all of them?
Yeah.
Eva never swears except when she do. Thank you, Eva. Oh my gosh. This is insane. You guys are wonderful. Again, you do not have to do this. I appreciate you though. Oh my gosh. My little heart can't even hold in.
Holy smokes. You guys.
Crazy. Thank you. I hope that this chat is worth this.
Gee, Clavis just cracked me up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I snort laughed. I couldn't help it. Where's Devin?
Let's see. I don't swear, but I have my characters say other stuff instead. I like to replace cussing with other words since I don't personally feel comfortable, which is why I do that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I tend to do that with my characters too, that I can't remember. My character Issa, she has a thing that she says instead of swearing. And in one dialogue, she said a-hole. And that was like, ma'am. She never says things like a-hole. Zoinks.
Yikes.
Let's see. So what is something that... Oh, there was a point that he was making when he was talking about... when he was giving like some tips on things to kind of avoid and how even to set up your dialogue, because it gave a lot of tips on that as well. And I didn't realize that you're not supposed to use semicolons in dialogue.
Yeah.
I didn't think that would be a thing because what does it matter? But apparently that is a thing. Mm-hmm. Nobody told me.
We either speak on run-on sentences or incomplete sentences. Like even though, so one of the things that he does say is that, dialogue is stylized speech. He does say that, but it's not grammatically correct speech. So that's why when somebody sends me a manuscript, and anytime I see semicolons, I'm always kind of like, take them out unless the editor puts them in there. Like that's...
It's like the opposite of ellipses, right? You use ellipses in dialogue all the time. The ... You use that in dialogue all the time. But if you use it in the rest of your writing, it's the mark of a terrible writer.
Especially when you have it like on 5 times on a page, like a book I may have over there.
Well,
Dialogue. Dialogue, yes. Rest of your book, no. Headlines, no. Yeah. Nobody's waiting with bated breath to see the rest of the forward headline. Like, just, yeah, sorry.
Bated breath.
About
I love it when you're reading a book and you're like, wow, these people never breathe. What is going on? Well, 3Bs swears more. I'm going to swear at you more. Thank you. You are wonderful.
I think too, like that idea of never breathing. I think that is another way that you can, that you can sort of develop a character. I have a friend named Tina who is this rapid fire, never takes a breath. Blah, blah, blah. Her lung capacity must be insane. Oh,
well, can you say that again? Sorry.
I was saying her lung capacity must be insane because the woman can talk for like 27 minutes without taking a breath. And sometimes when you write characters like that, like it can be really entertaining, but you can't write everybody like that. And I, one of the things that, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name, right off the top of my head, West Wing, Aaron Sorkin. He writes a ton of that rapid fire, and that's really very much his style, but he tends to write about these high pressure environments, the newsroom, the White House. And so that like patter, patter, patter dialogue that's like a machine gun totally fits in that. And it also helps to, to define these characters who never sleep, who never take a break, who barely have time to, use the restroom or get a cup of coffee, let alone stop talking for 2 seconds. So, and then when you have another character, like think of The West Wing, right? Which is a really old series, but you have all these characters that are a million miles a minute, but then the president, who was played by Martin Sheen, I think, right? Was it Martin Sheen? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. He was this very slow, measured, and so he stood out as being so different than all the rest of the characters just on the basis of his dialogue, let alone all the other elements. So you can use it in a variety of ways, and I think that he does a really nice job of talking about when this is appropriate, when this isn't appropriate. Here's how you can use this technique to make things, to make this type of character stronger or do this. And I think thinking about dialogue as more than just what people say or some thing that we use to move the plot forward, think about it as something that has the ability to fill out a character, to speed up or slow down the plot, or to to do all kinds of things. I think that it does a really nice job, the book, of really exploring a lot of those different areas that people don't think of necessarily when they think of dialogue, because in everyday life we go, that's talking.
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say one other thing that he does bring up in the book is that you can use dialogue to show relationships that people have with each other. And it's not even something as simple as like, hi, Bob, you're my friend from like 50 years ago, blah, blah, blah. It's something as simple as just the way that the language changes. So like, for example, when I'm with all these ladies, I talk a lot, or maybe I feel like I talk a lot anyway. I talk a lot, but when I get on the phone with my dad, very, very slow Southern gentleman, he got all the time in the world to say every syllable that he wants to share with you. I don't say a lot with my dad. I really don't. Our conversations take up about the same amount of time, but there's definitely less word space in there.
Probably
it's just,
more silences too.
For me, yeah.
And he was talking about using dialogue to help to define like your setting and your space. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I felt like some of the points that he made were things that I've picked up on intuitively, but it's just good to see it actually pointed out, so that you can like kind of think of it deliberately. Where are we at in time? Oh, we're still doing good. All right. Go on.
I had many years ago moved to Richmond, Virginia, and I went to a barbecue, and I was sitting chatting with the aunties of the person who took me to the barbecue, and the one this lovely woman with a big hat on asked me, now you come here or from here? That to me is the most Richmond, Virginia thing that and I lived there for several years and I loved it there, but that was like the most Richmond thing that anyone ever said to me. And I always think about that woman when I am writing that type of character. And I don't know her name, but I remember the first thing she said to me. Right? And that's powerful to be able to encapsulate an entire city and experience 2 years in, 5 words.
I think that shows the power of some good dialogue.
Right.
It can invite you in. It can totally define the space, define your character's relationships, define who your character is. He gave a lot of really excellent examples of how to use dialogues to learn who your character is and how they relate with other people. There was the one that I want to use. Was it the character web? I think it was the character web, and it made me think of a mind map. But instead of like a mind map where you have the one idea and things branch, pew, 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 pew. Instead of that, we have 2 characters. So Bob and Jill, and we connect them and we try to see, how does Bob know Jill? How does Jill know Bob? Do they know each other? Have they met in the past? Are they going to meet in the future? Does Jill know Bob because she knows his ex-wife that he cheated on, but Bob doesn't know Jill? Like, you start to kind of think of who these characters are and how they interrelate, and then from that you can bring more conflict into the dialogue once they do show up on your page. So that's going to be something that I'm going to try out probably tomorrow during the hashtag 10K Sunday challenge.
I like how you just kind of slid that in there.
I know, right?
That's a 10-10, ma'am. 10-10.
Thank you. I'm trying to get better at it.
You're doing it good.
Just here, does everybody occasionally feel like, is it time to do a sprint?
Right? Like, we've been talking for a long time and no one's written any word.
It's like when you travel on like a couple of planes and you finally like get in the car and you feel like you like need to fasten your seatbelt in a different way, like the plane way and not the car way.
There was just a bird that was right here and just like lingered for a second and then flew off, and that's why I was like, what the heck? I was like, are you coming to visit?
I thought it was like, what is she talking about?
I was like, I kind of reared back a minute.
Supposed to be true.
So yeah, I mean, I guess we could do a writing sprint, but I don't really feel like doing that. I'm gonna do a whole day of them tomorrow.
You only got 12 minutes left anyway.
Well, see you later. Glad that you stopped by, and thank you so much. You're so generous. Take care, 3Bs. This is completely off topic. You gotta edit. You gotta edit your chat.
Come as you are, Mary. Just put it all out there. Typos and all, baby. We'll take it.
Hello, Magenta.
Hello.
Glad you can make it. Indeed, a whole entire day. Buckle up. All the links and everything are in the description. If they're not there now, when you look, refresh. They'll be there. Oh, okay. That's why I try to read my text to small audiences before publishing, so I can see what is working, what isn't, and what is bringing the laughs, even though it wasn't planned. Oh my gosh, worst run. That's a good idea, but also unnerving. Unnerving. Who are these audiences?
It's just good practice for when, like, when bookstores open back up. If you do a book event, a book signing where you're reading a chapter or reading a selection, you always end up reading some dialogue. And there's always part of me that's like, do I have to do voices? Is there this? Is there that? So it's good. This is actually a really good way to see if your dialogue works. And that is to read it out loud, because if there are false notes, you'll hear it. I mean, it's a good last check for your dialogue. If you can't say it comfortably, then your character probably couldn't either.
And like last month, I was the feature author for Books and Quills magazine. So I did 2 live streams on Facebook, and I was reading from my stuff. And when I tell you that I was very unnerved and absolutely nervous, I was very unnerved and absolutely nervous.
It did not show at all, though.
Are you serious? Because I thought that it was like panic at the disco. Oh, just dance all over my face.
I as somebody who's known you for about a year, I was like, man, she's a deer in the headlights. But like everybody else, like you were like, hey, everybody, we're gonna take this book and we're gonna spend some time and we're gonna share these words together. You know, you had like that whole Bob Ross, let's just hang out kind of thing going on.
That is so nice to hear, because that is not how I felt on the inside. I felt like someone had like distilled all the caffeine in like the whole entire Western Hemisphere and just jabbed it in my freaking vein, which sounds much more violent than I was really feeling. Now that I hear that, sound better in my head. But anyway, by doing that, it was nice to see everyone's comments but I didn't have to see everybody's face. So if maybe you want to try reading stuff out loud, but you don't necessarily want to look folks right in the eye, do it online
that way. Mm-hmm. I just meant like read it out loud to yourself, but you do get a good vibe for it when you read it to other people. And that is, if you are like when we talked about how do you know if something's funny, if you read a funny scene to other people, they're either going to collectively start laughing or it will be dead silence and you will know.
It's really good. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, it is really good if you actually do read your stuff out to other people. So, like, for example, I'm going to talk about Writing Wife again. Writing Wife, whenever she brings stuff and she reads it, there are certain words that she like really puts an emphasis on. So when I see that in the script, I always italicize it. And then I'm like, hey, everything I italicize, when you read it, you really put the oomph in there. So I feel like that needs to be italicized. So
that's great.
That's a good
idea. I have a friend who, as part of her editing process, she reads her books to her husband when they're in bed at night. So like instead of reading to herself, she will read chapters of her book to him as they're getting ready to go to bed. And she said several times that is, he gives really good advice. He is a math, very, very analytic kind of guy. I don't know how much fiction he writes or how much fiction he reads. He doesn't write fiction at all. But I don't. And so his perspective, he is not her direct audience, but he brings a different perspective to her process that I always thought, oh, that would be really helpful. Like for me, that would be very helpful.
My significant is a writer. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. Go ahead.
I was just going to say my mathematician would probably just fall asleep.
Mine would probably interrupt me every now and then. He's like, what exactly do you mean when you say that? It's like, let me read the scene. He's like, no, I need to know. I'm like,
yeah, he'd either fall asleep or I'd look over and he's like, I'm like, what are you doing? Playing on your phone? I'm listening. What did I say? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have him read it over reading it to him. And he always has really good notes. And I think probably the benefit is that he's a really great writer, but he writes in a completely different genre. So that I think helps. Like like there are maybe some false notes that somebody who's in your same genre might not, pick up on, but that and more for the non-romance reader would be like, ew.
That's not comfy.
Yeah, it's always good to actually have people from even outside your genre come and look at your stuff because even though they don't always write your genre and they may not understand like the full pedagogy of it, they're still going to have like a thing to share to the table. Like
the word pedagogio. Yeah.
That was like a 50-cent word that you
I
just
know,
dropped
right?
nonchalantly. Like,
You got a perfect score on her essay. Nice job, girlfriend.
Oh my God. I went to college, y'all. Okay. I got to use this scholarly vernacular for something. Okay. But so like one of my friends, he likes to write steampunk, right? He just recently was just kind of like got into like romance. And even though like I wasn't a romance author at the time, but like, you know, he'd bring his stuff. I'm like, you know, I'm just saying, I'm not feeling it. Not feeling these two people. Like they're not making eye contact. They're not like, you know, I'm not getting any kind of heart sensations. He's like, well, like how important is it? I was like, I don't know. You know, you're writing romance. I'm just saying.
It is kind of important to look at the other.
oh man.
Get a little pitter-patter. I will say though, some of the best like kind of advice that like when I was writing my first novel, one of the characters was an attorney, and I got this attorney who was like famous. How he agreed to this, I have no idea, but he agreed to like read over to make sure that my lawyer parts were not terrible, and he ended up giving me advice on the entire book. And one of the things that he said was, if your character is going to go on a book tour for whatever 2 months, how is she not having sex with her husband before she leaves? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Right? Would you not like put one in for the road before you left? Yeah.
To remember me by, babe. To remember me by.
You heard it right here on Tamara's Stream, everybody.
I feel like this is a perfect note to end on. So let's give our final thoughts. Do you guys recommend this book? Do you think this is worth everybody's coins? And do you think that it would be better in paperback or ebook? Let me know what your thoughts.
I'll
go first.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go first because you're still giggling. Okay, I would definitely recommend this book. It's definitely worth the money. I would get it on the Kindle though, unless you want to actually like, you know, write in it like I did and be an overachiever. Personal choice. I would pay a lot of attention to probably like the first 3 chapters because we do talk about character agency and about agendas and about how to like keep it like really tight and concise and moving forward. That itself is definitely worth the price of the book for me. So, and I always recommend this book. Like anybody's like, I need help with dialogue, this one right here, this book.
That's how it ended up in my TBR pile. TBH. CJ, what did you think of it?
I said this before. This is an excellent book to use in tandem. Like it becomes almost like a reference book in tandem with the GNC. I did really appreciate that the last section, he literally says at the beginning, this is just a reference section for you to come back to later. Mm-hmm. And you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, that's the end of the book. Oh, okay. So the end of the book is like a reference. And I found that, yes, I will be coming back to that later.
Yeah, it's absolutely totally helpful.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that when books, particularly nonfiction reference kind of books, have that, so that it's not just I'll read this like maybe once a year or every couple of years. That it's a useful piece of, I don't want to say equipment, but like a reference stuff.
Yeah, it's a useful tool. Lisa?
I love this book, and I would definitely recommend buying it in paperback. And it's a little skinny read. It's probably 25,000 words, 20,000 words. And you there are so many things that you would go back to. And I think it's a terrific reference. I think it's really good. I like to have physical copies of my writing books, but you know what? It's one of those books where you almost might buy it. Like if you got a deal, you might also buy it on Kindle, because then you could look up if you're looking for something specific. It'd be really easy to search, but it's so, slim and really well laid out. It's very well organized that I don't think you have any problem finding anything anyway. So I would totally buy this again. I love it. It's a great book. And I'm so glad we picked it, because I think it's so, of everything that we've read this year, I think it's probably the most helpful book that we've, for me, I think it's probably the most helpful book that we've read.
And I too recommend it. I have it in the Kindle version, and it was like $4, and I think that was well worth the $4. Like I said before, the link is in the description. I feel like this is going to be a book I'm definitely going to reference again. And like I was talking about earlier, the exercises that he referenced, I'm definitely going to try them out. I think that it's going to help me to become a better dialogue writer. And isn't that what we're here for? Just to be better writers?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank all of you for being here. And I would like for these wonderful ladies to say who they are, tell folks where they can find you. If there's anything that you're up to or you want them to know, let them know. And then we'll let them go on their journeys off into their writing lands. CJ, we'll go with this way and work our way back up to me.
Okay. My name is CJ, and I am a writer of things. You can find my free YA fantasy serial, The South Year Island Chronicles. That's linked down below, right? I forgot to ask.
I'm not sure. But it can be.
Possibly.
If not.
Otherwise, you can search for it. It is out there. And then, yeah. That's what I've got.
Yes, it is down there.
Okay.
And Carrow?
Hi, my name is Carrow Brown. I'm an urban fantasy author. On my channel, I talk and whine about the life of a writer, sometimes under the influence of wine. You'll find things on there where I either sometimes give writing advice or I rant and maybe praise a book. I really need to actually find like more books to praise because I feel like people just want to watch me get angry and drunk and bitch for like 40 minutes. We got to change. Change is coming.
I love
me.
to watch you get drunk and angry. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. All right, so I'm Lisa Daly. My channel is best-selling author, writing coach Lisa Daly. I write. I'm a traditionally published author. I write romantic comedies. Earlier in my career, I wrote dating books, and sometimes I talk about that, but not very often. And on my channel, I talk about writing advice and how to get published and how to get an agent and things like that. And every Wednesday, we have a little live stream from 11 to 1 Eastern. And Carrow, I always point the wrong direction. Carrow is on my live stream every week, and the rest of you are always invited. So, all right, that's it. That's me. Thank you so much for having me today, Tamara. I love this little writing club. It's one of my favorite things.
Too. Right? This is like the perfect way to end the month almost, because tomorrow we're doing a 10K Sunday challenge. And in the description down below, we have all the listings of the channels and the folks that you're going to be able to see, hang out with, and write. It's going to be amazing, awesome, fabulous, good time, and probably hectic and a little crazy. But this time we have breaks. We did breaks this time. So at least you won't see me as like a total psycho by the end. Just a little bit crazy, not too much.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's good.
Oh my gosh.
Best transition ever, by the way. That was really very smooth.
Thank you. I am getting better at this. So my name's Tamara Woods. This is my channel where I talk about books and writing. I appreciate you all for being here. We decided that we are going to put the poll for the book for next month after this stream. So if you are not in the Goodreads group and you want to tell us what you want to read, join it. The link's in the description, as well as this book. If you want to pick up your copy, grab that link. And again, thank you so much for being here. Whether you're here live or you're watching the replay, you're the reason that we're doing this, because otherwise we'd just be yelling into the void. And hopefully we will see you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Have a good one.